What's up, War Report family? It's your guy, Ike Jones, and we are in here talking about Auburn's latest performance, specifically first-time performance from the young man, Hank Brown versus New Mexico. We'll break down and get into the statistics of his day and the rest of the Tigers. You are watching the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub, Ike Jones, Be Will, Mike G. You are now listening to
The Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by the good folks over at Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, make sure you hit them up. Code Get Your Weight Up, 15% off of weights. I'm going to be passing code Get Your Weight Up things out to everybody on the Auburn defense so that they can potentially perform a little bit better in this next one. Code TWR, get you $65 off of fire pits and Kamado grills. Maybe you want to join around a nice fire pit with your family and watch Auburn beat Georgia in a couple of weeks when they're on the road if you're not going up to Athens. So get you a fire pit and you can chill out around that. It's your guy Ike Jones and Mike G in here today talking a little bit more about Auburn football. If you are in here joining the conversation, do us a favor and share the video out there at the War Report. Don't forget to @ the War Report when you're sharing it on social media so that we know. It does my heart good to know that the shares are happening out there. So make sure you tag us in those posts so that we know that that's happening out there. I know people are talking anyway. I know it's happening out there anyway. So you might as well add us and let us know that the conversation is happening, good or bad. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video. Thumbs up, because you know we're going to give you the great Auburn content that you want. Subscribe to the channel. Mike G, tell the people other things they can do to support what we got going on.
You guys know the deal. I met so many of you yesterday at Tiger Walk in the pouring rain. Look, guys, you can join as a member. It was a lot of members I was meeting yesterday at Tiger Walk as well, too. Very graciously, some of our members invited me into their mobile home situations while we waited for credentials in what was a torrential downpour yesterday. But Auburn survived it, and we survived it, too, thanks to our members. $5.99 a month, guys. Will get you there. We appreciate everybody who joins the Green Name Gang. We had to sign up right before the live cast started today. So want to see some more of that. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. Help somebody else get a green name here. We got lots of great content coming this season. Looks like it's going to be a hell of a ride. You don't want to miss it. So check your email. You'll probably be on the receiving end of one of those if you interact with our channel at a high level, but have not made the decision to become a Green Name Gang member. Also want to thank show sponsor Vintage 2298 Restaurant and Butcher Shop for sponsoring this segment. If you watched our exclusive with Taylor Davis, ESPN sideline reporter, she covered the game last night. She loves vintage, so you should love vintage too. Please visit them and let Chef Randall Baldwin know that the War Report sent you. Last but certainly not least, Ike, the show is brought to you by our good friends over at JOYMODE. Last night was Auburn was in joy mode with Hank Brown at quarterback.
But so Auburn also need to get their D up. Joy mode.
All right, I'm feeling that. Okay, all right, dude, I gotta get through that read. Let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to hit it to the bedroom or their first start with confidence, feel like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes our intrusive thoughts get in the way of our performance, and maybe we feel like we're just not reaching our full potential. So what are our options? Pick up a sketchy gas station pill or get prescribed a drug with a long list of side effects. That's where our friends at JOYMODE come in. Imagine a supplement you can take like your favorite greens packet that gives you that extra dose of confidence that saves you the embarrassment and hassle of a traditional erection pill. Visit tryjoymode.com and use code report for 20% off plus free shipping. I have a feeling there are going to be some more celebrations on the horizon here for Auburn fans with Hank Brown at quarterback. JOYMODE will help you celebrate the right way.
Yes, indeed. We hope to see more of the celebratory things happening on the plains and wherever the Auburn faithful are pulling up this season. Let's get into the game and talk a little bit about what we saw from Auburn. And first and foremost, we're going to start with the one that everybody wants to talk about, and that is the redshirt freshman Hank Brown in his first collegiate start versus New Mexico, right? So let's temper the expectations off the jump before we go into boog mode, because I plan to boog a little bit because I think Hank Brown did a really good job. New Mexico does have the worst statistical defense in the country, ranked 133rd in all of FBS out of 133 teams, right? So Auburn is supposed to be able to move the ball versus this team. Rainy situation out there, messy day, but he handled business, right? He was on the day. Let me make sure I get his statistics correct here. 17 of 26 for a 65% completion. I think you noted that was up above 70% when you get the adjusted completion. 72% completion adjusted on the day. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions for Hank Brown, redshirt freshman in his first start. Mike, you got an opportunity to talk a little bit about this, but let's talk a little bit more about impressions from the first start from the young Hank Brown.
I think the thing that stood out the most to me was how quickly he got the ball out of his hands. Now, if you remember the breakdown that Aaron Murray did of Peyton Thorne against Cal on the interception where he got hit, he's saying, ball out now. He's holding on to the ball way too long. And you're giving receivers, you're hanging receivers out to dry. You're giving the defense time to recover when guys are running open in green grass, and you just have to get the ball out. Well, last night, Hank Brown had an average time to throw of 2 seconds flat. Now, we've talked about this statistic a lot on our channel. The best quarterbacks in the conference are around about 2.5 seconds or better. And if you're holding the ball any longer than that, you're asking for trouble in a lot of ways, or you're not throwing the ball with anticipation. Now, contrast that to Peyton Thorne last week. His average time to throw against Cal was 3.12 seconds. So a whole 1.12 seconds longer he's holding the ball, and that's a lifetime when you're back there in the pocket, and it can spell disaster. So Hank Brown was making quick decisions, but also good decisions with the football. And it was the worst pass defense probably in the history of college football. However, that's how you let bad teams back in the game. You hold on to the ball too long, you wait to make decisions, and then you give them time to catch up to you. When the truth is, you're bigger, stronger, and faster, and the way you stay ahead of them is by executing quickly and on time. That's what Hank Brown gave you yesterday. So an adjusted completion percentage of 72%. But without that, even he was still, 65.4%. Now, in the preseason, we talked about this. Where do we want Peyton Thorne to be? Mid to high 60s, right? So that's exactly what you want. If that's that extra play, that's that extra deep ball. That's that extra play you need to keep a drive going and not stall out. Hank Brown gave you that last night. So, look, you don't overreact. I don't want to overreact to him playing well last night. Yeah, and this is not me throwing water on his performance, but the opponent has to be considered here. But what he didn't do is he didn't show you a super low floor, at least last night, against a bad opponent. And that was the thing I think that most people were going to be looking at anyway. That's what Hugh Freeze was looking at last night. Is he going to go out there and lose me the game? Well, last night, the answer to that question was no. He was not going to lose you the game. He went out there. He made the plays. Now, there was one very atrocious throw. I don't know if you remember. It was like into quadruple coverage.
I definitely remember.
Yeah. I actually spoke with Hank after the game outside the stadium, and he was like, yeah, I shouldn't have thrown that. So against better competition, that's possibly a turnover. He did not have a turnover last night. When they look at the tape, again, for a redshirt freshman, that's something that you're going to point out and you're going to try to clean up headed into SEC play, which is next week. So I thought it was a good start. It was a good confidence builder for Hank Brown to get out there, get the feel for it. And then, we saw the other guys back him up. Cam Brown, who took much maligned last year, right? And then I would say Michael Riley. Look at Michael Riley, the touchdown that he caught in the back of the end zone. That's a route that we're not accustomed to seeing being thrown here. Hank Brown rolling out to the right, and you say this all the time. RPO doesn't mean that your quarterback has to be a dynamic runner.
Yeah.
Now, Hank just rolled out. He's just athletic enough to stay, keep the defense on their heels, roll out, and made a good throw rolling to his right on the run accurately. Michael Riley rewarded him by catching that ball and was rewarded by being there and making a play for his quarterback. There were small things you could take away from last night to say, hey, if we can continue to build on this, Hank Brown's going to be our guy moving forward.
Yeah, listen, again, I told you guys I was going to boog about it.
Yeah, I'm all about the boog today.
Listen, he played well, man. There are some things that this is what I like about Hank Brown's performance. You already talked about him getting the ball out of his hands. And, you sit next to me in the booth. So I'm sitting here like calling out formations and, they need to, this is what's open, blah, blah, blah. And I'm seeing stuff pre-snap and he's doing most of the stuff though. Like, it's not one of those situations where I'm like, oh my God, why didn't he see that? It's like, oh, look at there. He's actually just taking what the defense gave him and throwing the ball to this guy that's open because they're playing off coverage. Like, he's just doing small things that you want to be able to do just to keep your offense on schedule. And that's all Coach Hugh Freeze was talking about last week with Peyton Thorne was we couldn't get a rhythm offensively, he said, because we were off schedule so much. Hank Brown kept the offense on schedule for the vast majority of the day. And then when you needed him to give you some big completions downfield, he looked great. The throw up the sideline to Keandre Lambert-Smith was he could have walked the ball 30 yards down the field and handed it to him, and it would have landed in the exact same spot.
Right.
You couldn't throw that better. Lambert-Smith didn't have to break stride. It's over the correct shoulder. It was perfect. I don't care if that is Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, Kentucky. That pass is perfect every single competitor that you play against.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who the defense is. Better coverage, perfect.
Yeah.
Getting to multiple reads on a play, back across the field, scanning one side, nope, that's not there. We're going to come back across to the other side, completion. Doesn't matter who the competition is. You can do that. You're a good quarterback. Looking deep, nothing's open in the end zone. Oh, I've got my check down right here to Jarquez Hunter right here in the red zone. Let me just drop it off to him. He turns around and he scores. Doesn't matter the competition. Those things translate to bigger games. Now, some of his mistakes also translate. So again, I understand, and I definitely want to acknowledge he made mistakes in this game that he absolutely can't do. You talked about one of those. There's a couple of other throws that I'm pretty sure he wishes that he had back. All I'm saying is when you have a quarterback that keeps you on schedule, when you have a quarterback that's willing to say, all right, I don't have to go for a home run every single time. I'll just take the single. I'll take this quick double right here. Make sure that we can continue to have at bats out here on this drive. That's all you can really ask your quarterback to do. Yeah. And if you do that against better competition, that means you're keeping your defense a little bit fresher for that last drive that you need them to get a stop later in the game. You're able to make sure that you're flipping field position consistently. And it makes sure that if they start to cheat up, I've got a big enough arm to let it rip up the sideline to a guy that's streaking. Those are all things that's all you're asking them to do. And if you're doing that at a 65% or higher completion percentage, you're putting yourself in a great position to be a prolific passing offense against worse defenses that are going to be out there. I get it. Statistically, that New Mexico defense was, again, the worst. There are some other bad defenses that they're going to face this season where I expect him to have an explosion. Once he actually he ain't really this again. This is the truncated playbook. They didn't even scheme anything specifically for New Mexico. They were just like, we're gonna run our base. Make sure you can go out here and do this. When they put an actual game plan in place for these next couple of things, we're gonna see some things schemed specifically. I'm looking forward to seeing that next evolution of Hank Brown.
Yeah, and you make a good point about the truncated playbook, because if you're Hugh Freeze, you wanted a base to see if you could expand your playbook with this quarterback. How much can he handle? And I think that he handled that well. So I asked Hugh Freeze in the post game, straight up, like, look, you said you were pleased with Hank's performance, but is there going to be a QB battle in practice this week? And he said, no, Hank's the starter moving forward. And I said, okay, just want to make sure that we get that out there. And there's not this song and dance on social media about, practice. At this point, I'm not saying practice doesn't matter, but I'm not sure it matters much in terms of this QB race between these two quarterbacks right now. You evaluated all you can about Peyton Thorne in practice, Ike. That's the bottom line. Yeah, you've gotten all the information I think you're going to get about Peyton. And if you're Peyton, this is maybe the wake-up call you needed. Look, they may have to go back to you at some point for whatever reason, and you want to be ready. A lot of people really hated the example, but in a conversation that I had with Taylor Davis, she said that Hugh Freeze used the Jalen Milroe example of his benching last year and subsequent redemption story as an example to Peyton about why he should stay ready, and this may not be the end for you. Now, I had people tell me, the situations are there. I'm like, I don't know that they're that different. You got benched, you weren't playing well, and they gave the backup a shot. The only thing that's different about it was Hank Brown came in and played well when he got his shot, and Buchner put it to rest that he was not the guy. He was not the guy.
With Ty Simpson was the other guy that was there.
Yeah. Listen, man,
terrible.
Yeah, right. And so you roll with Milroe. He finishes a fringe Heisman candidate on the season. Now, we've seen it. We've seen this story, this song and dance before for one reason or another, where the backup gets a shot. It's a guy that wasn't on a lot of people's radars, but he comes in and does really well. And the team was behind us. The other question that I asked her was, did you get a sense, like, is the team on board with this? They said the players were coming to Hugh Freeze and saying, Coach, we got Hank's back. We're rolling with this. We mess with this decision. This is it, man. We're behind you on this one. And I thought that was a powerful thing to have happen when you have to make a decision like this. Peyton Thorne is a very experienced guy. He's played a lot of football. I don't doubt his football knowledge.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he knows the game well. It's just not translating right now. And you've got to do what's best for the team. And in the long run, maybe even what's best for Peyton, depending on how it works out. So
yeah, absolutely. Coach Hugh Freeze talked about, and this is one of the things I noted in when I had the live about the decision to start Hank Brown, was how was Peyton Thorne going to handle this? And he talked about in the post-game presser how he seems to be handling it fine. When Hank Brown comes to the sideline after the bad throw into coverage, he talks to him about, hey, look, what did you see here? And helping him figure out, oh, well, you thought it was going to be man, it was zone. Here's things that you can look at to give you indicators of zone versus man. Yeah, the mental stuff is there for Peyton Thorne. He understands what he's supposed to be seeing. I honestly think he's going to make an amazing coach one day if he decides to do that, because he understands the game in that way, potentially even a good QB coach for somebody one day. But
Agreed.
Hopefully, like you said, this will be something that he can build on. And whether it is good examples for younger players coming up about stuff, or just something that will build his character if he gets an opportunity to play again, to be able to cherish that moment a little bit better. Looking forward to seeing what the next chapter is for Peyton Thorne, whatever that is. And I don't think the Peyton Thorne story is done. Just might be done for an Auburn uniform if Hank Brown continues to play this way.
It was the timing of this. Again, something else we've talked about ad nauseum. Your back was up against the wall if you were Hugh Freeze, if you were going to make this decision, because you can't. It would have been a disservice to Hank and the team to wait to get into SEC play to pull the trigger here and then throw him to the Wolves. Now, if you're Hank, that can't really matter to you, right? Like, you just have to go out and play when you're called. That's right. It. His audition started against Maryland in the bowl game. If we're being honest, he started that season as the third string quarterback, and eventually found his way into a game. He played well for a quarter and a half. It's safe to say every time Hank Brown has been given a shot to come onto the field and perform in limited duty, he's done well, right? He's been a really, really great steward over the limited playing time that he's gotten. And, I don't mean to get too biblical with people, but, if you want to be trusted with a lot, you have to show yourself to be a good steward with the little that you have.
Right.
And he's done that. And that's all you get sometimes. In talking to him, his dad came up to me after the game, just kind of thanking us for our coverage and being fair and, some of the things that we've said. And, I told him, I said, look, a lot of players never see this opportunity.
Right.
And they're good. And it's not that they don't deserve it. It's just call it politics. Now we got NIL. We got all these different situations. Now is your time.
Right.
And you could be the next great story. If Stetson Bennett can walk on at the University of Georgia and make New York for the Heisman, Hank Brown can be one of the better quarterbacks that's ever done it here at Auburn. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that moving forward, continue to build on his confidence. But I think everybody should see how a good offense, like a quarterback who pulls the trigger and gets the ball out of his hands can help cover the deficiencies of an offensive line.
Yeah.
Because, look, to get to a quarterback who's releasing the ball in 2 seconds flat, you got to be flying, man. It's like, without a line there, even that would be hard. Like, he's not thinking, like he's going through his reads. There was one play, it's escaping me, where I saw, like you and I were talking about it, you saw him scan the field from right to left and find a guy. Like, he was definitely going through his progressions yesterday.
Yeah.
But on average, he was doing that very quickly. Following his eyes, looking off the safeties, man. Really helping his receivers out. PFF did not log a turnover-worthy play for Hank Brown yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, I would have given him at least 3. So
this is just wrong, right? He had a couple that he definitely wanted back, and we talked about that after the game directly with him. So, good start for him. You're going out to Arkansas next week on the Plains, and hopefully they can keep that party going.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the passing game, but I want to get into some comments here because I want to talk about the receivers and how they were a beneficiary. And we've already mentioned Cam Brown a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more about the guys who was catching the ball from Hank Brown in this game and how they performed. But let's go over to the comments really quickly. You already mentioned Thaddeus came on as a member. We appreciate that very much. JJ Brand jumps in and says the D needs joy mode because they were limp. Richard Soft can always count on John Brand given those types of comments.
Limp Richard.
Yeah. TJ Lou says, why does Durkin and company wait until the second half to change the defense when the same scheme didn't work for Cal and New Mexico? SEC teams will get up quick that way. I'm not
gonna lie. I am a little concerned about the first half performances of these defenses.
Yeah.
Now,
conversely, I am very happy with the second half performances of these defenses.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, give the Dampier credit. I mean, he's an athlete. He's an athlete, and he was getting after it, and it just kind of was what it was yesterday. But like, if you look, at his statistics yesterday, he was not completing the ball at a very high clip. I think at the end of the first half, he was like maybe 50% passing on the day. He finished with a 48.9% completion percentage. So they were getting there. He had 3 turnover-worthy plays, and his adjusted completion percentage was only 65%. Yeah. Right? His receivers dropped 4 balls. There were some pretty atrocious drops there on his end. He didn't get sacked at all yesterday, it looks like. But he had an average time to throw of 2.82 seconds, and that was just him scrambling around trying to make something happen for his team.
Listen, let's be clear. He's done this to everyone so far. It's not like Auburn is some anomaly where, oh, man, this kid looked great just against Auburn. He's been doing this all year. Now, it was against Montana State and Arizona, but still, this isn't the first time Dampier has been they haven't registered a stack against this guy this year.
Yeah,
he escapes pressure. He's slippery, and he knows how to get rid of the football.
I think we need to get out of the habit of thinking just because a team is not a good team doesn't mean that they won't have good athletes in places.
Yeah.
Right? And he is a good athlete. Just watch. He was clearly fast. He was beating our guys to the edge there on those runs to the outside, and they had to adjust for that, which they did. They were just chasing him around. That was the defensive was their whole job was chasing him around, and he was making plays with his legs there. But the amazing interception over the back right? Like they finally came up with one because if you're going to do that all game, eventually against decent athletes, you're going to have turnovers. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
The interception that Kite got on him, just right place, right time. I was happy to see him be there, but it was a throw that was not on target, and he picked it off. So credit to him. And I'm looking at his stats here. If you look at him in the running game, Ike,
he was their leading rusher coming into the game. And this is something that Caesar actually mentioned last night that I wanted to I want to confirm on the film when I look back at it. I do think that for 3 or 4 days straight, that defense was shown film cut-ups of Devin Dampier running wild on Montana State and Arizona, and they said to themselves, "We're going to stop Devin Dampier. We're going to stop Dev." And then they were so focused on Devin Dampier that they stopped playing assignment sound football as opposed to go get the quarterback or corral the quarterback.
And 130 yards last week.
Yeah, to their credit, they limited him for the most part of being able to. He escaped a couple of times and made one really great on that first drive that they had where they had him dead to rights in the backfield and he ends up making like 12, 15 yards, something crazy but he did not run like crazy against Auburn because all eyes were on him. It felt like 11 guys were saying to themselves, "Don't let Devin Dampier run the football on you."
Yeah.
But that's not assignment sound football. That's not smart defense. Smart defense says trust your guys to be where they're supposed to be. You handle your responsibility. So then that's something that you get when you have a lot of younger guys. I don't want to get too far into the defense, but we'll dive into the defense a little bit more. But that's what I noted when I was watching it.
Right.
Super sticker here from Thomas Jones, who follows up with a chat that says, "I think we found out what Brown can do for Hugh." I like it. Yes, absolutely. In 2 ways, right? And so this is give me let me get to this other super chat here who said, "Did y'all hear Trent Dilfer's comments on Hank?" I did not hear his comments on Hank, but he has spoken highly of him previously as his former high school coach in Tennessee. But I didn't hear anything that he said recently about Hank Brown. But yeah, let me get back into what Brown can do for you. We saw what Hank Brown could do, but we also saw what Camden Brown could do for you out there as a pass catcher. Listen, I don't even pretend like the young men that we've had opportunities to speak with personally don't have a soft spot. I don't have a soft spot for them and want to see them perform well. I want to see everyone in an Auburn uniform perform well, but I especially want the guys who I've talked to and I've heard their heart and I've seen the kind of effort that they put in. I want to see them do well. I'm not gonna apologize for that. But when you talk to Camden Brown, he's just a genuinely good kid, man.
Yeah,
he's a good guy. You want to see him perform well. Listening to him in the post game talk about getting this opportunity. And he harkens back to the same thing that we heard from him last summer when he was sitting around the fire pit with us. And he was like, I'm working hard for my why. And he brought up his sister and the reason why he continues to compete at the level that he does, even without getting all the opportunities he feels like that he may deserve. But when the opportunity came, he went out there and he performed yesterday.
Yep.
That's all you can really ask from your junior wide receiver that's out there just trying to continue to make plays is stay right and ready. And that's exactly what he did yesterday. Did you?
No. I thought we were going to the next comment. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked what Cam Brown did. And I want to just kind of camp out here on the wide receivers again. Hank Brown did a good job of getting it to multiple targets out there. I think he had each of his 4 touchdowns was to a different receiver. So he wasn't locked in on one guy and saying, I'm definitely going to throw the ball. Most of his completions were to Cam Brown, which that's something I also talked about leading up to the game that I thought that potentially the rapport that Hank Brown could have would be better with some of the guys who weren't starters because he'd been throwing to them more often when he was getting second team reps out there. And Cam Brown came up big for him. He made some good catches. His first touchdown was a Brown to Brown connection there on the slant route in the end zone, but did a good job of distributing the football. You already mentioned Micah Riley getting his touchdown there in the
Although
end
got
zone.
in on it.
Yeah. Valdo, let's talk about the tight ends, because that's something that people have been talking about a lot coming into here. While we're in the neighborhood, just want to say hopefully speedy recovery for Brandon Frazier, who had an injury. Apparently he broke I forgot what Coach Freeze said was broken. Was it a foot? He broke his foot. But he has an injury that he's trying to heal from, so likely will not see him for a while. But Luke Deal had a catch yesterday.
He did.
The Rico Walker was in the game and got a target, right? But every tight end that came into the game, Hank Brown took an opportunity to try to get him the football. And that's a difference from what we've seen in the first two games from this Auburn offense. The use of the tight end a little bit more frequently. You saw a couple of targets from Valdo, but Hank's like, listen, man, if you're out there and you're open, I'm throwing you the football. I don't care.
And it was better too, right? The tight ends had 6 targets on the day and 5 catches. And that's what you want to see. Now, I talked about this. It was, talked about, Cal, where did the tight ends go?
Right.
You're running all this 12 personnel, but your tight ends are not a threat to catch the ball, it felt like. And last night we saw it. Again, Michael Riley's, one catch of the game, TD, right? And it was a good one on a rollout where he, the quarterback had to make a good throw and the tight end had to make a great catch on the run in the back of the end zone. And he did that. I was very happy for him. It's been kind of a long journey for him with a lot of very senior guys in front of him. So, I feel bad about Frazier's injury, but opportunities arise because of injury all the time in this game, and you have to be ready to step in. So we'll see what Micah does with that. He's got to know, he's got to be assignment sound so that they can keep him on the field more. When they look at the film, we'll see how he grades out, but great day for the tight ends, definitely.
Yeah, I'm again. Now, I haven't had a chance to, interview him, but again, I've talked to him several times. Micah, another great guy that's out there working hard. I am a fan of his blocking abilities, and he can catch the football. I'm hoping that he now gets more opportunities. Again, I hate to see Frazier go down with the injury, but this moves him up the depth chart a little bit. Hopefully he's going to start to be able to get his opportunities to go out there and make an impact on the game. And I think that once he gets his, I said this about Hank Brown well into the preseason, that he's a guy that once he gets his shot, I don't think he's going to relinquish it.
Field. Yeah.
I feel very similarly about a couple other guys. Micah's one of those guys where I'm like, hey, if you let him get his opportunities, he's going to be a guy that's not going to come back off the field. Just because he does everything you need him to do. And if he can continue to work, I think that's going to be the position that he's going to be in for this offense. Let's take another quick break here and hear a couple of words from our show sponsors, and then we'll get back and start talking a little bit about this run game that finally woke up a little bit against New Mexico. You all are watching the Weekend Tailgate.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageRoom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Guys, you already know the deal. We need you to sign up. We saw 20 memberships given away here in the chat. Would love to see some more of that before the end of the show. We appreciate you guys for joining up. That gifted membership button is right there in your face, guys. Just smash it. Let's help grow the Green Name Gang here before the end of the season. I want to thank show sponsor, The Rogue Shop. Visit therogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 20% off there with our guy, Richard. Rogueshop.com. Stress, pain, sleep, anxiety. Fortunately, Auburn didn't give us much in the pain and anxiety department yesterday. But when they do, inevitably do that again. The Rogue Shop is there for you. We appreciate them for sponsoring the show. Also, I want to thank show sponsor Autograph. Guys, visit your phone's app store and download the Autograph app today. The Autograph is your one-stop shop for all your fandom needs. Whether it's articles or podcasts, the Autograph has you covered. you can go to a million different websites to search for Auburn content. Autograph gathers all that content into a single place for you, and then sends you notifications when news drops on commitments and injuries and big articles drop from your favorite Auburn content providers. So download Autograph today, and when you sign up, use code RAPPORT. Guys, this costs you absolutely nothing. It's one of the things we ask you guys to do. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us a ton. They support our channel on a financial level. We appreciate them for doing that. And all you have to do is just download the app and use our code when you sign up. It will. I'm going to put the link here that will take you straight to the App Store with our code in the chat here for you guys. But we got 486 people on here. I'd love to see 486 people download the Autograph app today. So I'll put the link in the chat here, guys. Click that link, download Autograph today.
All right, let's get back over into the conversation. We'll start with a couple of comments before we do. Demario Nettles asked, was that vanilla defense last night, or are we right to worry? I mean, the defense hasn't looked good for 2 games straight. I think it's valid to worry, but we'll dig more into the defense here in just a little bit. But yeah, I think it's right to be worried about it. But here's the thing. All of that not looking right, and they're still not giving up a lot of points, right? And so the worry is that at some point in time that's not going to be the case, but hopefully they can continue to keep teams out of the end zone. Rick Cazenave says the best thing about Brown considering the opponent was he never looked hyped up or pressing. Is New Mexico the worst pass defense? Because we looked pretty bad. Never seen so many wide receivers behind the secondary. Statistically, yes, New Mexico is still the worst, but Auburn has some work to do for sure on defense. Lawrence Robinson says TD throw to Fairweather. Ball placement is what made that a TD. If he hits Valdo inside instead of outside, he would have been a complete instead of a TD. Not just the ball placement, but how quickly he made the decision
to throw the ball. Yes,
right. That allowed Valdo to turn and get upfield before the defense could come. So, listen, man, I can't say enough how important it is to have good timing and placement when you're making these throws. That's something that we got killed on a lot when talking about previous quarterbacks. Was like, yeah, it's not. Yeah, yes, that ball was probably something the receiver could have caught. Yes, that was a completed pass, but if you throw that earlier or you place that in a different spot, the receiver has an opportunity to do something else besides just catch it. And that's where you're talking about next level QB stuff, not just acceptable stuff.
Right.
Venmo requester says those checkdowns had me feeling tingly on the inside. All right.
Scanning the field and dumping the ball off to Jarquez Hunter for a touchdown up the middle was sexual and violent. I loved it. Also, did you see the play? We'll talk about the run game here in a second, but Jarquez famously squats over 600 pounds. And there was a play where he in the red zone, he was definitely hit before the line and just carried guys into the end zone. Man, that's all weight room right there. I love seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Super chats here. B Will's forehead says that first interception we got was absolutely filthy. I still am not sure how in the world Jaron Thompson, like, that's it. If he needs anything for a highlight reel and that's not in there, then like somebody's not doing the justice, because bro, like, that's crazy. That interception was filthy. That is the correct word for it. What the hell was Holden doing on that Hail Mary? We're talking about the one to end the half. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Jake Crane tweeted. He was all his tweet said was throw the Hail Mary. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the whole reason you're in the game.
Just throw that one up, bro. Like, I assume they put him in there because they felt like he had the arm strength to get it there.
Yeah.
I don't know why else you insert him in that particular situation, but man, gotta throw that one up.
He's like, man, y'all ain't messing up my completion percentage. Cleveland Brown says, bend but don't break only worked for so long, but I feel better with Hank starting now. Thorne's just not the guy to dig out of a hole.
Yeah, the scary part about where this season might go if your offense does not pick up the scoring is that defensively, eventually, when you get into SEC play, they're going to start to finish those drives and score points on you. And you might need to win a shootout or two. And prior to today, I think a lot of fans had questions about whether Auburn could win a shootout.
Yeah.
Don't need a running quarterback, man, to make it happen. You just need a guy who is quick on the trigger, accurate with the football, and makes good decisions, goes through his progressions, gives his receivers a shot. He did that yesterday. That big, deep pass to Keandre Lambert-Smith down the field, man. He put that thing right in the breadbasket.
Yep.
In stride. Couldn't ask for a better throw.
Mercy says if they played a clean game, it would have been close, I guess, meaning New Mexico if they had played clean. I mean, but then if Auburn had played cleaner, then it wouldn't have been close still, right? So you get the result that you get, and Auburn comes out with a not close outcome, and that's the one that we love here over at the War Report.
Auburn had something to do with why they didn't play a clean game as well, too. I mean, it wasn't the best defensive performance, but they did do some things out there defensively to make them uncomfortable, particularly in the second half.
Absolutely. All right, let's get over into the conversation about the run game, because Jarquez Hunter gets his 100-yard game for the first time this season. Love to see him be able to do that, get into the end zone 2 times, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 as a receiver. Damari Alston has a really good game despite the fumble that he had there, and he gets into the end zone as well. Jeremiah Cobb gets into the action, and he's out there running well. First time this season you've seen all 3 running backs deployed in a way that made sense, I think, for the run game. You have the right distribution that Coach Hugh Freeze says, hey, if we could have that distribution again for every game, he'd take that. So you got to see Auburn in full display in the more balanced offensive attack that he wants to see. What were your thoughts about Auburn in the run game yesterday versus New Mexico?
I liked to see how much more balanced they were. You just mentioned that, but balance is the key. When Hugh Freeze's offense does the best, like it's 55% run, 45% pass. What Auburn has lacked is volume, and so it's been really difficult because without that volume, there's no flow to the offense, and it gets really difficult. Hank Brown, let me see here. I'm just looking at some stats. He threw the ball 26 times last night, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you look at the run game and what they were able to do there were 40 rush attempts. That's more what you want to see out of this offense, and that's without the quarterback running the ball. So these are running backs that are getting these attempts for the most part. Now, if you take out the 2 quarterback, what they counted as quarterback runs, Holden Gurner had 2 and Hank had 1. The running backs still had 37 attempts on the night. That's the ratio that you want to see, and I think that's where Hugh Freeze's offense is the most effective. So now, how did they split those up? Well, Jarquez had 20 attempts, Damari had 10 attempts, and Cobb had 7 attempts. And Jarquez averaged 7.8 yards per carry, and Damari averaged 8 yards a carry.
Right.
Fantastic. Any coach anywhere would take that. Cobb, again, he had 7 carries. He averaged 4.9 yards per carry. But really, when you're starting 2, that's what you want to see. And both, Jarquez had a long of 31. Damari had the big run for a touchdown for 29 yards. These guys did well. Now, the fumbles, Isaac.
Yeah.
Tape the ball to their hands and make them carry the ball to practice. The fumbles have to stop.
Yeah.
Going into SEC play. There was one play, and it was being pointed out on social media. I don't know if you remember, where Jarquez busted one up the middle, and it almost looked like he cut into the defender.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was trying to run him over or what he was trying to do, but it was a very curious decision.
Yeah.
And, so maybe, I don't know if that's field vision or what that is, but, when they look at the film, hopefully they get that cleaned up. But, outside of the fumbles, and a couple of runs where I felt they could have cut the ball to the outside a little bit instead of trying to take on defenders, run game looked good. Again, this wasn't a great defense, but you need to get them warmed up headed into SEC play. There's no reason that Jarquez Hunter should not, finish with 1,000 yards this season. Now, what was 155 yards last night? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
more
wasn't
of that,
looking
please.
at the stat, but yeah.
Yeah, more of that, please. Damari turned in 80 yards on only 10 carries, man. Come on. These are great numbers here from these running backs. They're both extremely talented. This split is about what I would have expected, from these guys. And then you used Jarquez in the pass game as well, too. Now, when you look at Aaron Murray's breakdown of Jarquez Hunter, he talks about his route concepts not being what they should be. Like when he went out in the passing game, it looks like they got that fixed this week. But he was sitting down in spots where he should not have been, and he just wasn't where he was supposed to be in the pass game. With Hank Brown in there, it looks like he was where he needed to be, and that resulted in some good plays for Auburn, including the touchdown. So yeah. I was happy to see that they got that fixed with him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the running backs did a good job in a lot of different ways in this game. And some of that, again, I don't want to give him too much praise because this is a thing that Coach Freeze says. And a lot of people say that when things go well, the quarterback gets all the praise. And if it goes poorly, the quarterback probably gets a little bit too much of the blame. But I do think that New Mexico having to play honest has to do with the quarterback being willing to get rid of the football and showing early in the game he can hit the deep shot. Right. So it means that, all right, maybe we wanted to stack the box against them and threaten them and dare them to throw, but I don't know that's going to work this game. Like, he's getting the ball out of his hands quickly, or they're willing to take the shots down the field and he can hit those. So, like, okay, maybe we need to play this a little bit more straight up. And then they get into that second drive and you see the run game start to be more effective because you're starting to have a situation where they feel as if, okay, maybe we can't come in. Maybe our initial strategy was stop the run and make them throw it. But and unfortunately for New Mexico, I pointed this out also, they had a bye week coming into this Auburn game. So they had a full 2 weeks to figure out how they were going to attack this defense and how they were going to stop the Auburn offense. And they pretty much had to throw out everything that they thought they knew about the Auburn offense because a new starter at quarterback gets named 2 days before the game comes. And they're like, I don't know anything about this dude and what his tendencies are. What does the Auburn offense even look like with this guy? So all the stuff that you had planned to do to affect Peyton Thorne, can't do that anymore. You got to do something else. And so they had to pivot on their plan to be able to figure out. And they're trying to adjust on the fly as the game is going on, which also underscores again why I do think New Mexico had a good plan of how to attack Auburn, because they had 2 weeks to prep that plan. They were like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is tendencies we see, blah, blah. It's pretty much the same defense. We're going to go out there and we're going to attack them in this way. And again, this New Mexico team had been putting up points coming into this game anyway. But yeah, back to the run game. I love what Coach Nix put together as far as a rushing plan for this offense and the ways that he wanted to be able to utilize the different running backs in different ways. There was different styles of runs that they were employing for the different backs that were in there. And then the slight incorporation of them into the pass game. What I haven't seen yet, what I have not seen yet, and I am hoping is a part of what's going to be the evolution of this offense, is the screen game. I have not seen the screen game used wide receiver, tight end, running back, no screens yet. Hopefully there will be some screens incorporated into this offense.
Feels like Malcolm Simmons could probably help you there.
For sure.
My biggest disappointment of last night was the non-utilization of Malcolm Simmons more.
Shout out to Tanner Burns for making the decision. You guys want to keep kicking the ball short off on the kickoffs, and it's going to Micah. Shout out to Micah Riley again, though, because
Micah said, he said, "Bump it, I'm doing it." Yeah, y'all
the first time
I'm gonna get these 3 yards.
The first time he just fair caught it. He was like, "All right, cool, I'll fair catch it." The second time they kicked it over to him, and it went a little bit past him, and he did the fair catch wave signal or whatever, and it went to another guy. The third time he was like, "Man, look, y'all gonna keep kicking the ball to me. I'm finna run this thing, bro. Like, come on now."
Right, yeah.
But then Tanner was like, "Okay, this is where you guys want to keep kicking it off. We'll just put somebody who's a returner right there, and you get a big return out of it." So
turned out, man.
Props to them for the switch up there on special teams.
Malcolm Simmons is just electric, and again, I wonder if he got in the doghouse after game one or something about why not using him more. But it just feels like he could help this team a little bit more. Maybe they're saving some stuff for SEC play.
I think it's more of the latter. I think it's more so like what they want to use Malcolm Simmons for is stuff that is designed specifically to put the ball in Malcolm's hands, as opposed to we're just running the offense. And when they put him on the field, it's the defense better be on alert. 11's out there.
Right. Yeah, he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. Just give him the ball in space and let him cook. That's Malcolm Simmons. And like I said, it was only New Mexico, and I was less emotional about it after the game. But I was sitting there thinking, like, man, why aren't they using this guy more? It's just 2 weeks straight, where they have not done much with his talents, and he can help you now. He's not a guy that you need to ease in. It felt like after game one. Again, other than almost dropping the ball before going into the end zone on his first collegiate touchdown, I don't see a reason to keep him off the field. Use all these guys. You talked about a free rotation. Well, it went away against Cal in week 2. It was moderate this week, and we saw a little bit more of it in the second half. Again, shout out to Camden Brown for stepping up in the Cam Coleman, with Cam Coleman injured, and taking advantage and showing that he can be a reliable wide receiver to back up there. Perry Thompson, again, man, great adjustment on a deep ball from Hank Brown, where we just didn't see that play much, where the ball was underthrown and he just kind of worked himself back into the play and caught the ball falling down. Now, he had a very disappointing drop as well, too, where he started running with the ball before he caught it.
Yeah, it was a great pass. He didn't look it in before he tried to run.
Yeah, but yeah, Malcolm, man, I'm telling you, sweeps and it just feels like there's nowhere you can't use him. He can run deep routes. He can run crossing routes. I don't know, man. I'm hoping we see more of him next week. But if it's not on tape a bunch, and Arkansas doesn't have anything to prepare for, or maybe when you put him out there, he breaks the game open, at key points. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah. Listen, Malcolm Simmons is electric for sure. And the guy out of the Freeze 4 who we've not seen much at all is Bryce Kane, right? Like, Malcolm Simmons has seen the field. Perry Thompson now seeing the field. Of course, Cam Coleman is a starter. Bryce Kane has not gotten opportunities yet. I'm looking forward to seeing. Listen, man. Listen, you say what we want to about him. Sam Jackson's been making plays. He's been out there. Sam Jackson's another guy that's just an athlete. And I've seen some people in the chat while we're talking a little bit about the run game, about they don't want to see the Wildcat anymore. I'd welcome Sam Jackson as a Wildcat quarterback, because you don't have to change the personnel out, right? You can run Sam Jackson out there as a slot receiver and then motion to the Wildcat with Sam Jackson back there, keep a running back in as a secondary blocker, or let him run a read option right there, because he's done that before in his collegiate career. You snap it to him. Now you're not just direct snapping it to somebody who is going downhill to run the football. You can have the option for him to keep. You can motion the running back out of there, and he can throw the ball out of that. I would absolutely love it. Coach Nix, if you happen to run across a War Rapport stream, note the time, 53 minutes and 46 seconds. Ike Jones says he wants to see Sam Jackson. If you're going to run Wildcat, run it out of an 11 personnel set with Sam Jackson as a slot receiver, motion into Wildcat, and let me see it in that way. That's how I want to see it. They actually put Cobb in there too, and then motion him across as a speed sweep option for him before you take off and do it. That's what I want to see.
Notice the few empty sets that they ran where they started with Jarquez in the backfield and then they motioned him out wide. Yes. And this is what you do with Hank Brown. I honestly thought they were going to do this with Peyton Thorne in the first couple of games, but we didn't really see any empty sets with Thorne in there. It was, 5 wide. And I think this is how you get Malcolm and Sam on the field more, right? Yeah. Like, go run some empty sets, run some 10 personnel, get those guys out there, man, and just let them make plays in space. You've got athletes. Yeah. And you can still run out of that set by bringing a guy in the jet motion situation. So it's not like you just have to throw the football. So, yes, I love it. Yeah, it gives you a lot of options when you've got guys like Malcolm and Sam that can just make plays from anywhere on the field in a variety of different ways. So, like I said, I'm my hope is that there, the talk about, I promise the package will not be big. Now that you see how Hank Brown is playing, you expand some of what you're doing as he proves he can handle more. And then you just become a nightmare for people with these athletes that you've gone out and gotten. I was talking to a friend about this last night after I got back from the game. Hugh Freeze, throughout his career, has gone out and just, at the skill positions, he's like, I'm going to get the best wide receivers ever. But you talked about this. When has he ever benched a quarterback? It's not even the first time ever he's benched a quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. And those guys primarily have been transfers. They haven't been guys from high school. And Hank Brown is a guy that you recruited from high school. So there might be some new trends starting here for Hugh Freeze that we haven't really seen in his career. But, he's never struggled to get guys at the skill positions. Now, while running backs haven't necessarily been featured in a way like, well, let me rephrase that. His offense is not known for producing great running backs.
True.
Right. But they do run the ball because we've seen the run pass ratios in, when these offenses have been better. It's just the volume of plays has been a lot higher. So, I'm hoping that that's a trend that we see as well change too, because it does feel like Jarquez and Damari's roles were kind of relegated to secondary in these first two games. Right. And, they were more featured last night. Now, the weather maybe had something to do with that as well, too. They wanted to protect the football, but it dried up a little bit last night, and they let it rip. And
yeah, he had plenty. 26 attempts on the game is good.
That's about what when Bo was here, that's about what we wanted to see him throw the ball. Somewhere between 25 to 30 attempts a game. Anything more than that means that you're probably playing catch up,
right,
in that old offense. And then it was not good. But I don't know. I looked at the New Mexico quarterback, and at halftime he had like 24 attempts already. I was like, this dude's going to throw the ball like 50 times tonight.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a good thing for them. So,
right.
It was fun last night. I think watching some of these other guys here, but the run game that's got to be something that holds you in. I'm a little disconcerted by time of possession statistics here through these first three games.
Yeah, defense has got to get off the field a little bit more quickly.
Now, and you've got to hold your defense on the sideline by extending drives and controlling the clock with the run game.
Yeah.
We need to see more of that here going into conference play. Your season is not over. It was like after the Cal loss, it was just like, oh Lord, we may not make a bowl game. And this, I'm like, listen, your season's not over. Maybe this is the wake-up call that they needed. And Cohen came out and he reaffirmed his commitment to Hugh Freeze by saying, like, look, when you're building something, it's a process and there are going to be ups and downs during that process.
Yeah.
Now, I wish they would apply that logic to every sport on campus, but it is a process. He's absolutely right. And you're going to have games like these. Now you hope there are less and less as you go on.
Right.
But because as you start to get more talent in and, the Miami linebacker, the Miami commit flipped yesterday, Melendez, you're going to run out of excuses, man. And that's where they got at QB. They ran out of excuses and they just had to switch QBs.
Right. And the sincere hope is that it does not become a last ditch effort to make a pivot. It's more
Correct.
of, I saw this coming down the road. Let me go ahead.
For this.
Yeah. Forethought gets you into gets you out of a lot of fixes that you didn't need to be in. All right, let's get to the last conversation that I know everybody wants to talk about, and that is this Auburn defense. The Auburn defense yesterday surrendered 448 yards to New Mexico net. Not great.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, definitely could have been worse. Again, I'll say again, this New Mexico offense has been putting up numbers on everybody. They were averaging almost 40 points per game coming into this game. And I get it. It was Arizona. It was Montana State. But they are putting up points 19 versus Auburn, right? As bad as last week felt versus Cal, the defense really, you put two of those touchdowns on the offense because of the short fields. The defense really only surrendered a single touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. Definitely, I'm not here today saying you guys are overreacting to the defense. Well, I kind of am saying you're overreacting, but I'm not saying that there's no cause for concern. I'm saying the defense is doing a good enough job to make sure that you are still in football games. This is the thing that Mike has been saying for years. Can we get an Auburn offense that can at least score 21 points? Because the defense is putting you in a position where if you score 21, you're winning 8-9 games.
Yep.
New Mexico scored 19. 20 gets you a dub. So you're in a place, again, where the defense is not great, not dominant, not top whatever, but doing a good enough job that if you can score points that you can win football games. What are your thoughts on the Auburn defense from yesterday?
The lack of turnovers it's through 3 games in totality is concerning. It is. The secondary is definitely concerning. I think that's where most of my worry lies, is in the secondary. It feels like guys aren't getting their head around. They're not playing. And Hugh Freeze said this in the post game. He said that we've got to play with more poise, and we've got to play the ball better.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. They're not playing the ball. There were a couple of plays there, that could have been touchdowns for New Mexico where it was like, man, the guy's running right toward the line. There's nothing left to do for you but to get your head around and just make sure that he doesn't catch it. But those guys were making there were a couple there where you and I are sitting next to each other. We're like, did he catch that?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
they were crazy catches.
The one joint up the sideline where the dude caught it like on his hip, and I was like, yo, that's there. Dampier was putting some passes where it was either his guy or nobody, and his guy came up with it. Right. Right. And so I understand that it's frustrating sometimes to see that stuff, but it's not like that's bad coverage. That's just that's a really good play. It's a really good throw, really good catch. So again, I get it. The defense is not where it needs to be, but there are some bright spots out there that you can take from it. But you balance out in your mind seeing them make amazing plays with guys running wide open 20 yards behind somebody and nobody's in the same area code. And they're just completely busted coverage type situations that scratch your head about, like, yo, like how did that happen? How is this guy that open behind everyone? So those are the ones that I think as a defensive coordinator, you go back and you look at it and you're like, okay, guys, we can't do this. This can't be a thing that we continue to do out here, because with better athletes, that's probably a touchdown.
Yeah. It was. They've got to find some consistency there. And while we're talking about this, they in the advanced statistics that we get during the game, they have a drive chart, and so I just want to remind everybody what it was like for New Mexico. Their first drive, 9 plays, 60 yards, 3 minutes and 48 seconds, field goal. Second drive, 10 plays, 75 yards, 3 minutes and 31 seconds, touchdown. The third drive, 2 plays, 11 yards, 47 seconds, interception, right? Then they went 11 plays, 71 yards, 3 minutes, 33 seconds again, field goal. So they held there. The next drive, it was a field goal, it was a missed field goal attempt, but 7 plays, 72 yards, 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Time of possession is killing Auburn. I'm worried about this. This is going to keep Hugh Freeze up at night going into SEC play. And then you get into the second half, 9 plays, 50 yards. These guys were moving the ball, 4 minutes, 25 seconds, but interception. The next drive, 12 plays, 74 yards, 5 minutes, 54 seconds, TD.
Offensive pass interference, by the way.
Yeah. 3 plays, 8 yards, 1 minute and 36 seconds, punt. And then obviously turnover on downs and a punt, to end the game there. But there were some really, really long extended drives that ended in scores for New Mexico, where, they drove the ball 70 something yards down the field 4 times in this game. 4 70+ yard drives for New Mexico in this game. And that was about to secondary primarily, not being able to get stops and come up with plays enough in this. And so Taylor Green is coming. He's playing fairly well, and I'm a little worried about how he's going to affect this Auburn secondary based on what they put on tape. So, we'll see if Durkin can adjust. Now, I nicknamed him Lurkin Durkin. People were like, Mike, he hasn't earned that. And I'm starting to agree with them. I, I didn't. I almost didn't even want to hear from Hugh Freeze in the post game. I was just like, send DJ Durkin. All the questions I really have are about defense.
Yeah.
And what he did out there defensively. I think we all saw Hank played well. So let's move on from that, right? Like, what's going on with this defense, man? You've got some issues there. So yeah, the secondary, I think, is the weak spot on this team. The last couple of years, they've been a bright spot. I don't know if you feel this way too. Feels like Keontae maybe is struggling out there at corner. I'm wondering if that's the right spot for him.
I mean, I think everybody's struggling that corner though. Like, I don't think it's limited to him, but he's definitely.
But
not
he's like a
playing
senior
well.
guy out there, right? Like, this is supposed to be like his.
Well, it's a
best
new
season.
position for him, right?
Yeah.
He's a senior, but he's playing at a new spot. So, the question is, and this is what literally I think I've seen this 450 times, moving back to the spot that he's played more and he'll perform better, which, I mean, maybe that's something that they do. But the question that you have to then ask is, who's going to be the corner that you play on the outside? Kite seems like he's been playing well. And with Lee not available, who's going to be the guy opposite him? It's going to have to be, I guess, JC Hart or maybe Jay Crawford. You give him a chance to get out there and make some plays if Lee's not going to be available. But yeah, they're going to have to figure that outside corner situation out. And all of this cushion that they're giving on the outside is just begging guys to throw those quick hitches that they keep giving up. So they're going to have to figure out if they're going to be a bend but don't break defense that's giving up these quick hitches, and quarterbacks are going to be willing to be comfortable. Be patient to just throw it quickly.
That's what Kevin Steele's defenses were like a lot, right?
Yes.
Bend but don't break, tons of yards, but not a lot of touchdowns. Very nerve-wracking. And I did not see that coming from a DJ Durkin defense. So they've got to find some scheme that works for the personnel that they have better than what we've seen these first few games. Now, again, I want to give credit to the New Mexico quarterback.
Right.
Very, very athletic, very mobile. He made plays. He had a dynamite game versus Arizona the week before. So this is their second straight Power 5 game. And I just want to give him credit. Right. He's a great athlete, but he's not the best quarterback you're going to see all year.
For sure.
And so it does worry me going into next week. And, they're going to have to see Jackson Arnold in week 5. And, I'm worried about this. I think Hugh Freeze is too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is, again, cause for worry when you see the number of yards that you're giving up. You're hoping that you don't get bailed out by poor red zone offense from the other team. So we'll look forward to seeing what the evolution of this defense is as they continue with these young guys getting more opportunities to go out there and play. Let's go one more time over here to the comment section so that we can get out of here. Thank you for the gifted memberships. You mentioned this earlier from Eugenia. Super chat here from Nina. That rhymed, but Hank Brown isn't going to be perfect. I'm okay with him learning. I couldn't watch the PT disaster anymore. Trying to keep my excitement / expectations under control, seeing a QB making progressions. War damn Eagle.
He's a redshirt freshman. And I think that people need to remember that. It's not going to be perfect. Hank Brown shouldn't have to come in and save your season offensively. You want him to, he's going to need some grace to grow as a quarterback. And I want people to remember that. This is a young guy who got his first start. And maybe he shocks us. Maybe he overperforms, for a redshirt freshman. We've seen it happen in college football before. But I don't think that you go. I don't think if he has struggles one game, you go, oh man, throw him away. Right? Like, let's give him a shot. He deserves to be able to go out there, have a rough game. To me, this conversation is about is how low is the floor?
Right.
Right. With Peyton Thorne, for a guy who was going in his 4th year as a starter, it seems like the floor was just still way too low. He does some great things for you, but when it goes wrong, how bad is it going to get? And we don't know that yet with Hank Brown. Right? Like, we don't have a big enough sample size to know what that's like with Hank. So it could be a little bit lower than what we've seen so far, or maybe it's not. And if it's not, then that's a great thing for Auburn. We just don't know yet, but he definitely deserves the same amount of grace that others have gotten before him.
For sure. For sure. Chazzy DAU says, after watching that D last night, no wonder PT looks like Tom Brady during practice. Wow, that defensive performance is completely unacceptable. I don't know that anybody says he looks like Tom Brady during practice. Just that he looked like he knew what he was doing.
The best one in practice, yeah.
Yeah. So, but Hank Brown was also in practice versus that defense, right? So,
yeah,
it just is what it is.
This isn't a conversation really about practice anymore.
Yeah. Rick Cazenave says, not a fan of the 3-man front and only 3 rushing.
I've seen this comment a lot here on social media since yesterday.
Yeah. Has been a frequent conversation about the 3-man front, which is, again, something that DJ Durkin's always run. So it's not new to him in his defensive philosophy. He might just not have all of the guys necessary to run it the way that he wants to, but that doesn't mean you change your defensive philosophy. That just means that you figure out how to change some of the calls so that you're able, and having mixed fronts can still happen with only 3 down lines. So again, I think that's dependent upon the opponent and how they figure out that they want to try to defend that opponent. Someone explain how that 1 TD wasn't offensive pass interference. I can't explain that to you because it was offensive pass interference. There is no explanation other than they just didn't want to throw the flag. They got tired of throwing flags on that drive, so they were just like, all right, whatever. Yeah,
it was
offensive pass
the
interference.
amount of flags in that game were crazy. And
what was we were keeping track of this at one point in time. I think it got up to like 26.
I got it right here. Penalties: 16 for New Mexico State for 112 yards and 9 for Auburn.
So 25 total.
So 25, yeah, for 88 yards, 25 penalties.
And those were just the accepted penalties. There were more penalties flagged during the game.
Yeah, right. Some of them were declined.
So yeah, the ref at one point in time sounded like he was losing his voice. He was talking so much. So
oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of penalties out there and a lot of craziness. Let's see. Ben Bloodworth said, did y'all see Cal get 2 penalties because their fans wouldn't stop throwing stuff on the field? The coach grabbed the ref's mic and yelled at the
as I was falling asleep, this video was playing, and I didn't know what I was so tired. I didn't know what I was looking at. And now, thanks to Ben Bloodworth, I know. Yeah, I did see that. I did. Again, I was just like, what is this now? What is this foolishness? Yep. I hate that we lost to them.
Yeah, terrible.
Bunch of goon buckets.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here today?
Hank Brown's the man.
Hank Brown.
Let this man cook. You know, you got to have more than one guy that can do the job in the SEC. I keep saying this. If you don't have 2 quarterbacks, you are flirting with disaster in this conference. Last year, more than 50% of the teams in this conference went to their backup to start an entire game, whether it was injury or poor play. Pick your reason. And if you're Auburn, better teams than you have been here. And, you know, I mean, think about this. When Tua got hurt, Mac Jones had to step in. And they lost that Iron Bowl, but I remember telling all my Bama friends that would listen, I think you guys are going to be all right with Mac. Yes, he threw 2 pick sixes, but, man, those 4 touchdowns looked good as well, too. And then he had probably one of the best statistical seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback in the SEC the next year. Nearly 80% completion percentage rate or some crazy. And, you know, they ended with a national title. And, you know, he went to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And he played so well that his receiver won the Heisman.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm not saying Hank Brown is Mac, but, you know, Mac wasn't fleet of foot.
No, he's
like Tua and Hurts were
the opposite of fleet of foot.
Right, yeah. The same way Hank is not necessarily a runner, but, you know, if your arm talent is good enough, you know, evaluation is not an exact science. I don't give a fuck how many stars Hank Brown had coming into this.
Right.
I don't care. There are plenty of 3 stars that got overlooked because those recruiting services, man, like some of those guys don't know it. It's not the same guy ranking all of them.
True.
That's not how that works. So the guy who's ranking one guy who got Bryce Young is like, yeah, he's a 5-star, like clearly. Easy day at the office. The guy who has to come in and see Hank Brown, he's got to know what he's looking at and understand that this kid is better, maybe. Like, when you're trying to evaluate good talent versus lesser competition, you know how it is. At the bigger high school, they get more looks and it looks better. And right now, if you're coming out of Central, you're maybe getting a few more looks than some of the smaller high schools in the state.
Right.
Hank Brown I think he has the potential to be a baller. And it just doesn't matter that he wasn't the first picked. I think it matters whether you're the last one out rather than the first one out. And he has a chance to be the last one out. Get behind him and don't turn on him the moment it looks a little bit rough. If you're an Auburn fan, do not turn on this kid the first time it looks rough. So, he deserves his shot. Peyton got 3 years of it at 2 different schools. All right. I think, is TJ on his 4th school now?
LSU, Auburn,
Texas State,
Texas
Western
State,
Kentucky.
Western Kentucky, yeah.
Man, Hank he's still on his 1st school. Can we give him, a few games in a row? So, like I said, I don't want to see it. Same way I had this energy for the receivers. I was like, look, man, you guys dogged out every single receiver we had last year. Said they couldn't catch. Well, guess what, man? Cam Brown can catch. He can play receiver. He's still here. Michael Riley can play football. Maybe these kids weren't as much of the issue as we thought they were or other people thought they were. Hank Brown can throw the football, man. He can play. He's played this game his whole life. Give him a shot. A real shot. And show potential athletes that, the fans will get behind these players who maybe weren't heralded coming out of high school as the best guy. I heard a story about Hank that I can't repeat, but he should have been probably rated higher coming out of high school. Should have been rated higher. And these camps and these things have a lot to do where these guys end up. But, man, I'm telling you, give Hank a real good shot here and don't turn on this kid if he has a rough game next week versus Arkansas. Now, we can talk about what he does on the field, and we can be critical, but it doesn't mean we're turning on him, right? Be careful in your language on social media. Don't be a dick.
That's asking for a lot from some people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just give this kid a shot.
All right. Well, let's get out of here one more time, Mike G. Tell the people how.
Do we have more comments here? Another super chat from Lisa.
Oh, my bad. I missed the Lisa Y super chat. Said didn't really score 19. The refs gifted one by missing an obvious offensive pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And last week, again, I would argue 21 points off turnovers. 14 points off turnovers for Cal. So the defense played better than the final score looked for sure. But it is what it is. We also got Thaddeus Hood, who joined here as a member. We appreciate you, brother, for joining the Green Name Gang.
All right, Mike G, tell them about how they can support us.
You guys know the deal, man. Sign up. Thaddeus did it. You can do it. Everybody can do it. $5.99 a month. Hit that join button right there in your face. Whether you're on desktop or on your mobile phone, you can join up. It's a little cheaper for you guys if you do it from your desktop. As I understand it, and some of you guys have told me, we set the price at $5.99, but Apple tax on like a 30% app store fee. So if that price looks higher, it's Apple that's doing that. It's not us. But you can get on your desktop, and as long as you're logged in with the same credentials, it will transfer to your phone. I appreciate everybody who gifted a membership today. Certainly appreciate that. Check us out on podcasts. Every single podcast network, The War Report is there, bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content. So if you liked the Taylor Davis interview, but you didn't watch it on YouTube and you want to catch up on some of the stuff that we put out a lot of content. You can do that on your way to work by listening to podcasts. This helps us out a lot, dude. Subscribe to our podcast. And just make sure that those alerts are set and those automatic downloads are set. It helps us quite a bit. Again, this costs you nothing, but it helps us quite a bit. Speaking of things that cost you nothing, download the Autograph app, guys. Autograph is your one-stop shop for all your team's content. So whether it's podcasts, whether it's articles, Autograph has you covered. And they've got a lot of great things there in the app to keep you informed as a fan. Look, we give away tickets every single week. If you did not win the tickets, you can go buy some through Autograph. I'm going to put the link here in the comments one more time for our everybody watching today. Click that link. That'll take you there. Use referral code RAPPORT when you sign up. You guys did a great job signing up for this in week 1. We had over 500 people on today. If all of you signed up for Autograph, they will never stop sponsoring the War Report. So if you can't become a Green Name Gang member, this is a way that you can help us that costs you nothing, but helps us a lot. So download Autograph today. It's a great app. I know you guys are doing this to help us, but also I think you'll enjoy the app. It's a very good user experience, and you don't have to go all over the internet searching for content. So whenever somebody commits or news breaks on Auburn, your favorite Auburn beat writers' content will be in the Autograph app.
Yes, indeed. And before you guys get out of here, a couple more super chats came in here late. Dustin Pace sent us this super chat. He said, "There you go, just in a great mood." So we appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
And then Mercy comes back and says, "With the new commit, we are now top 4 in recruiting."
Mercy, which recruiting service are you looking at? Is that 247?
Gotta be 247.
Okay, yeah, because last night they didn't update very quickly. But
yeah, I think 247 has Auburn listed in the top 4, and On 3
yes,
are now in the top 5 over there.
Okay. Now we jumped to Georgia. Auburn has a better recruiting class than Georgia right now.
That is a fact.
The downfall of Georgia is on the way. Throw the whole program away.
All right, before you guys get out of here, share the content with somebody at the War Report out there on your social media platforms. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us on social media at the War Report on Instagram and Twitter. And we are TW Report on TikTok. We'll be back at you with more great morning drop information tomorrow. And presser coming from Coach Hugh Freeze tomorrow. We'll have that. And then press reactions later on in the week. Yeah. Midweek report preview and the matchup with Arkansas. All kind of great stuff. Green Name Game. I got your film review coming up tomorrow. So much coming up. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.